Welcome to the webinar about Art and About Amplified for 2026. So my name is Jamie Dawson. I'm the Head of Programming for the City of Sydney's Major Events team, and I'll be with you for the first part of the day. I'd also like to acknowledge the other city representatives in the room. So we've got Linda Fiscus, who is from our procurement team. We've got Rose Eade from our procurement team as well. Sarah Hotchin, who works in the major events team in the business operations section. So she will look after all the contracting and bits and pieces for us here. Grace Howe, who's our program manager for Art and About. And of course, Stephen Gilby, who is the producer of major events and festivals for Creative City at the City of Sydney. So next slide, please, Grace. I would like to acknowledge that I'm coming from you live down in Darawal country today. It's an absolute cracking day. My particular part of the world of Darawal country has been looked after by the Wadi Wadi people since basically time immemorial, and I'd like to pay my respects to all of the ancestors past and present and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people in the room with us today. I spent some time down in Bellambi Point today with whale season. Whales are buri. They're known in Darawal language, basically the totem ancestor and creator figure for Darawal people in their dreaming story. I think it's amazing. I've seen whales every single day. I've been down for about the last kind of 2.5 weeks. So I take a bit of comfort that the ancestors are out there. They're busy. They're watching over us. And again, I'd like to thank them for their time and their custodian of this area. I'd also like to acknowledge that most of my city colleagues are up on Gadigal country today, the land of the Gadigal people, and I would like to pay my respects to past and present elders there as well. Okay. Housekeeping. So sorry about this. It's always a fancy slide, the housekeeping slide. I do need to let you know this information session is being recorded and will be posted on the Art and About webpage. So if you lose contact partway through, check after the webinar is finished and you'll be able to watch the recording in all its glory and stumble that we go through today. Hopefully we'll answer a lot of your commonly asked questions in the presentation, but if you have a question, I'd encourage you to use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. If you would like to send your question anonymously, that's fine. You just tick send anonymously before you click send, and it will come through to us without any detail on it. We'll do our best to monitor that as we go through. We will probably try and answer all the questions at the end of the time, and Grace is also going to cover in her presentation a little bit of the pre-submitted questions that have already come through. Next slide, please, Grace. So how did we get here? So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a backstory. I'm assuming there's quite a few people in the room that may have applied before or have been a part of the Art and About program. So Art and About began long time ago, actually as a month-long festival. It was, I guess, a critical mass of art that happened all around the city and laneways all over the place. And over time, that developed into a year-round program. That year-round program meant that artists could apply basically for any time of the year. We'd run a call out and we'd present right throughout the 12 months of the year in different parts of the city and working through that. Things kind of changed, I guess, in the way that people use CBD centres now, particularly post-COVID. You know, it's a very different environment on why people come to the city, what they're doing in the city, and working around that. So over the last couple of years, I guess, as a programming team, we've sort of had a bit of a look to go, is this the best way of presenting the work of artists, of local artists in the city, in this new environment where we don't have necessarily critical masses of people wandering around to discover art. And that's what Art and About in the year-long program was very much about. So what we've done is refined the program somewhat into a weekend. And the idea of that is that what we'd like to do is get a whole bunch of projects up and running within a single precinct to encourage a lot of people to come in for the weekend or over the weekend to participate and to see that art. This new model also allows us to kind of target areas or sort of, heritage areas or amazing kind of nighttime economy areas such as the Oxford Street precinct, and be able to target that to encourage artists to have a stronger curatorial direction and to respond to the demographics and character of the precincts that we're working through into that kind of space. Um, the other thing I'd sort of like to note is that we haven't necessarily, through the Art and About program, the old Art and About program, been able to engage with indoor venues as much. So this allows us to do that. So there are several indoor venues that Grace will go through, which are open to artists to submit ideas for as part of this program. So Art and About Amplified 2026 will be the first year. It will be a biannual program that will go every second year. We'll alternate with another project. So every second year, we'll be running very much a visual art based kind of model, destination model of events. But that's how this one's working in that space. If we go to the next slide, please, Grace. So look, the objectives in here, so a lot of this is detailed in the EOI itself, that we're sort of asking you to have a bit of a consideration on how it would go into that space. But what we're really trying to do is find a whole bunch of projects, outdoor projects, indoor projects, performance projects, visual arts projects that actually explore the community, culture, history, and character of the Oxford Street precinct. It is so rich in history. It is so rich in culture around that precinct. And part of this is to help enliven and tell that story. So something to think about when you're putting together your projects, that is very much one of the high up objectives of what we're looking to do. If you go to the next slide, please, Grace. Just after this project, so this, I guess, is the first part of what we're looking for. So we're looking for the large outdoor projects and the internal projects in this part. I just want to flag that to come, that will make up Art and About Amplified 2026. We are planning on closing Burke Street for a day on the Saturday, the 24th of October. And there will be opportunity to actually, for those who have, I guess, street-based performance works or things into that space, there'll be an opportunity to apply and be curated as part of that program independently of this call out. We're also looking at doing banner galleries around Oxford Street. So I'm not sure if anyone is aware of our Sydney Lunar Festival program. If you're not, jump online, Sydney Lunar Festival, and look up the banner galleries. But essentially all the big flags that hang around the city, what we'd look at doing is getting artists to design banners that we then hang up around. So it's kind of like an in-the-air visual gallery, if you like, around the Oxford Street precinct and the event footprint, which allows us to define it, I guess, from one of a much better description, a branding point of view, but allows other opportunities for artists to be able to present their work on display as well. And then I touched on the fact that 2027, 29, and 31, if you like, we will be running projects very specifically about murals. So we're looking to kind of enliven precincts in a very similar way, but focusing purely on murals in those projects. And I think that's about it on the background. Grace, I'd love to hand over to you if that's okay.
Thanks, Jamie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Grace, and I'm the Program Manager for Art and About Sydney. So today I'll go through the venues that we have available as part of the EOI. I did want to preface that you can apply for more than one venue, but please bear in mind that you'll need to submit multiple responses. So for example, if there's 2 venues that you like the look of, you'll need to prepare 2 returnable forms and budgets. I also wanted to note that your first preference might not be available based on curatorial decisions, so it might be a good idea to submit a couple of options. So to kick off, I wanted to share some information about the Darlinghurst community space, which is quite intimate and tucked away in an alley off Burke Street. So the floor area of this space is 70 square meters and has capacity for 50 people. It also has sprung floor. So in terms of art forms, suggested art forms for this space would be small scale performances, workshops, exhibitions, poetries, comedy, and the like. It is situated in a residential area, so noise impacts need to be considered. This venue doesn't have any audiovisual equipment, but it can be brought on site. This will be the responsibility of the artist, and these costs can be reflected in the project fee. In terms of city support, we can provide front of house staff and security. So our next indoor venue is the Lower Hall at East Sydney Community and Arts Centre. So this is located at Burton Street, Darlinghurst. So as you can see, it's slightly below street level. has beautiful lighting and a covered indoor terrace. Over to the right-hand side, you can see large doors that open up to an outdoor terrace that overlooks a small neighbourhood park. The venue fits 150 people and there's seating for 60 people. The ground floor area is 130 square metres. So in terms of art forms, this venue could be used for workshops, exhibitions, poetry, small-scale performances, and the like. Additional equipment can be brought onto site as with Darlinghurst Community Space. This will be the responsibility of the artist, and these costs must be reflected in the project fee. The city will provide a duty technician, front of house staff, security, and equipment listed in the technical specification. So our final indoor space is also at SCAC, and it's a performance space which is situated on level 2 of the building. It's centrally located in Darlinghurst Creative Hub. So this space has sprung floors and parquet, is equipped with sound and lighting features, blackout curtains, projector, screen, and can fit up to 100 seats. The size of this venue is 168 square metres and has a ceiling height of around 3.4 metres to 4 metres. So in this space, we're looking for live performances such as theatre, dance, comedy, and the like. This venue also has a lot of extra facilities that can be requested. If you do wish to use these, costs must be accounted for in the project fee. If there's any additional equipment that you wanted to bring on site, you're welcome to do so. This is your responsibility, and these costs must be reflected in the project fee. So in terms of support, we can provide a duty technician, front of house staff, security, and equipment listed in the venue's text specs. So moving on to our outdoor spaces, this space is called Oxford Square, and it's located on Oxford Street opposite Riley Street. There's a historical canopy fountain in this precinct, which you can see to the left-hand side. This location doesn't have power and has low-hanging branches. Access is via stairs and ramp and is not really accessible for people with limited mobility. There's also adjoining outdoor dining on Burton Street. So in terms of uses, we think this is best used for an installation or a small-scale performance. In terms of city support, we can provide security, bump in and bump out fencing, and event power as required. So moving on to Oxford Street South. This is on the corner of Oxford Street and Flinders Street, so basically right outside of Kinsellas. The fountain that you can see in this image can be switched off, but please note that no infrastructure can be placed on top. There's also a stretch of outdoor dining along the shop fronts, and access to this area must be maintained. The space is also unofficially used as a bike lane connector between Oxford Street and Burke Street. And also that turf on the left-hand side is known as Gilligan's Island, and no infrastructure is allowed to go on there too. Power is available in this location, and the city can assist with security, fencing, and further event power if required. So in terms of installations, we suggest an elevated work that do not impact or block pedestrian or bicycle flow. However, just noting that installations shouldn't exceed the maximum height of 6 metres. So our final location is Oxford Street North, which is in between Forbes Street and Oxford Street. So Darlinghurst Courthouse is situated to the east, and Qtopia, the largest centre for queer history, is situated in the middle of the site. Markets do operate on the site on Fridays and Saturdays, so any artist choosing to work in this space will need to coordinate with the market operators to coexist in this space. Artworks in this location also require a DA due to the heritage significance of the substation, and the artist is responsible for any preparation, management, and costs associated with the development application. It is worth noting that Qtopia does have an existing DA for the use of the substation, which allows for the use of the square for pop-up activation. So this could be a potential partnership opportunity. Power is readily available in the site, and the city will also provide security and fencing to support artists with this installation. So just heading into some questions that were received through the Art and About inbox. So the first question, so this slide relates to funding and all the funding related questions. So in terms of what is the project fee, the city will consider EOIs of all project fees. While there is no fixed upper limit for projects, the city does have an Art and About operational budget that we need to work with. The city strongly encourages artists to submit their best price and demonstrate value for money. So question number 2, what is the difference between the project fee and budget? So the project fee is the total fee that the city will pay the successful artist to plan, manage and deliver the work. It is up to the artist to determine the project fee. The budget, on the other hand, is a breakdown of all costs associated with the project. So it could include manufacture, hire, staffing, costuming, infrastructure, etc. A budget template is available on the website and needs to be returned as part of the EOI submission. So question 3 is security, site cleanup, weatherproofing and insurance covered by the city. Security is covered by the city, however, all other costs are covered by the artist. These costs can be included in the budget and project fee. So question 4, is the city open to co-funding projects with partners and sponsors? So projects that require third-party funding or sponsorship may be considered if clearly detailed in the artist's EOI submission, budget and total fee. Artists are responsible for negotiating and managing these funding agreements. And question 5, can we partner with other organisations to utilise their venues? So yes, we can consider this. However, the artist will be responsible for negotiating and managing these agreements, including other areas such as security, front of house staff and duty technicians. So we have another slide about eligibility of applications. So the first question is, do you need to live in Sydney or New South Wales? So our priority here at the city is supporting Sydney and New South Wales based artists. However, we are open to working with artists outside of this area should we receive an idea that is perfect for the area. Artists will need to have a valid ABN to submit an EOI submission. Question number 2, what art forms are accepted? So as mentioned previously, all art forms are welcome. We have provided suggested uses for each location as a guide. Question number 3, do the artworks need to have a connection to LGBTQIA+ themes? So artworks don't necessarily have to be related to LGBTQIA+ themes. It can also respond to the community, character and history of the Oxford Street precinct. It is worth noting that this is a priority area for council, and I highly suggest reading through the Oxford Street LGBTQIA+ social and cultural place strategy. So question number 4, do I need to hold insurances? At this stage of the EOI process, it's fine not to have insurance. However, if you are successful and awarded a contract, you will need to obtain the appropriate insurance. And question number 5, would a lighting installation be appropriate? So we will consider lighting installations. However, the installation will also have to have strong visual impact during the daytime. So that was the questions received. So now I'll hand over to Sarah Hudson, who will talk about the submissions process.
Thanks, Grace. And hopefully everyone can hear me. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming along today. I'm Sarah, and I'm a project manager in the major events team. I've only got a few slides to speak to. I'm just going to cover a few of the important things to consider when you're completing your submissions and sending them through. So the first slide I'll speak to is about the returnable documents. If you can move along, Grace, thank you. So Next slide. Yeah. So on the EOI webpage, a lot of you've probably already looked on there, but you'll see there's a list of documents at the bottom of the webpage that you're able to download. So there's 2 of those documents that need to be completed by yourselves and then returned, and they are what your EOI submission is formed of. So there's the returnable forms, which is the Word file that's highlighted on the little screenshot there on the slide. And then also it's the attachment B EOI artist budget. So that's the detailed budget template that Grace was speaking to before. So really important to complete both of those files and send them back because they are what your submission is going to consist of. And if we don't see completed documents for both the returnable forms and the budget, unfortunately, we won't be able to progress your submission any further. So really important that both of those are completed. Next slide, please. So just a bit more on submission requirements. So it is really important to consider the deadline that's on the website. So it's that 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 12th of November deadline. We can't accept any late submissions after that time. If there's any sort of reason or issue that you think is going to prevent you from meeting that deadline, just send an email through to the Art and About inbox and we can consider it. But we do need to all be sticking to that deadline to receive submissions back. Also very important to complete all of the schedules in the returnable forms. I appreciate there's quite a lot. But again, if we don't see completed schedules, we won't be able to progress your submission any further. So again, even if it's not necessarily a huge amount of detailed information that you're able to provide, we just need to see that those schedules have been considered, completed, and that you've sent some information back. And I guess just to elaborate on that point a bit more, again, appreciate that some of the schedules can be quite full on. Things like the modern slavery schedule, it has quite a big table with a lot of information that we're asking for. But again, it's not necessarily going to be something that, you know, a single sole trader artist might be able to complete. So if that's the case for yourself, just select that you're a sole trader and you'll see on that table it says that you don't need to complete any further of the boxes there to fill out. But again, we just need to see that tick in the box to be able to progress you. And I guess on the schedules as well, if we flip to the next slide, we've just summarized the evaluation criteria there. So again, really important to have a read through that. It's going to give you a really good indication of the kind of things that the evaluation panel are looking for in your submissions. It's how we're going to be scoring submissions. And you'll see as you go through the returnable forms, there are schedules for each of those evaluation criteria. So if we're asking for you to demonstrate, for example, your experience and capacity of the project team that are going to be working on the project, there's a applicable schedule for you to fill out to give us the details of that project team. So hopefully that makes sense. If we're asking for information and letting you know that we're going to be evaluating on it, there'll be a spot there in those returnable forms for you to put that information in. And then the final slide that I've got to speak to is just about the commissioning agreement. So this has been provided as one of the documents as well that you can download and have a read through. It is just for reference only. You don't need to fill out anything on the agreement yet. But I do recommend that you read through it because if you are successful and you're commissioned to deliver a project for Amplified, they will be the terms that you'll be engaged under. So have a read through, make sure things are clear in terms of what you're responsible for versus what the city is responsible for. There's schedules at the back, which we then fill out depending on what the project is. And again, if you do have any questions, then feel free to send them through to the Art and About inbox, and we'll give you that email address at the end of this presentation as well. What else do I need to say? Yeah, just that any proposed changes, we need to have them submitted to us in writing, again, to the Art and About inbox, no later than 5 business days prior to the closing date. So that 12th of November closing date, 5 business days before is the cutoff for when we can receive any requests for any proposed amendments or changes to that agreement template. And again, we will consider them, we'll read them, we won't necessarily be able to agree to them, but every sort of request will be considered. And yeah, it's just important that we receive that request in writing prior to the EOI closing date. If we do receive requests after the fact, then we won't be able to consider those. So again, just to bear that in mind. That information as well about the cutoff and those dates is also in the returnable forms as well. But just wanted to highlight that. And I think that's it from me, but here to answer any questions at the end as well, if needed.
Thanks, Sarah. So this slide shows the key dates for the EOI process. So we have about 3 weeks to go before the EOI closes on the 12th of November. It will take us a couple of months to assess and the applications. So we're hoping to notify artists in January 2026, and then it will take a couple of months to finalize contracts as well. So in terms of projects meetings kicking off, we're anticipating that this will start in May 2026. So we've reached the end of this information session. So if you have any further questions, please email them to artandAbout@cityofsydney.newsouthwales.gov.au. I might quickly check to see if any questions have come through the Q&A box. Nothing. So great. So yeah, if you have any further questions, please put them to us in writing. And we're really looking forward to seeing all your submissions. Thank you for joining us today. Bye.